Hello, everyone. Just waiting to get started here, but hope you're all doing well. And hopefully everything will work without any problemas. Oh, there we go. All right. What? What? Hold on. We're having some technical difficulties. So just bear with us. Right now, there would be one of those things where the screen would go blank and it would say we're experiencing technical difficulties. And then I would be able to segue out of here without further rambling on and embarrassing myself. But wait, I hit approve. Okay, hold on, it's adding. Okay, good. There we go. I'm not sure why this is not working. I'm hitting approve and it says it's adding. Now, oh, there we
Hi.
go. Hey,
Hey, what are you doing?
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
It's cool. It's my first time going live, so I was experiencing the same.
Gotcha. Well, it's one of those things where I feel like it's not legitimate, of a show or performance unless there's some kind of last minute snafu. So,
It has to be that way. Otherwise, it's not legit.
gotcha. Yeah. Well, now that you've confirmed it, I'm glad. I'm glad I can definitely agree. So, are you? May I ask what time it is where you are right now?
It's 8:05 a.m.
Okay. Yeah. So you're in Brisbane.
Hmm.
Okay. I don't know if you're familiar. There was a movie that came out a long time ago, Wayne's World 2, which was a scene.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so there's a scene where Wayne is chatting with Drew Barrymore, and who's playing somebody from Sweden, and he
Yeah.
starts saying all these facts about Sweden to try and impress her. So
Yes.
when I was in third grade, my teacher was from Australia, so I remember all of these facts about Australia. So I'm in the back of my mind, there's a little voice, the old third grader in me is like, tell her that Canberra is the capital. So
Yay! Please do that. I would love that.
okay, yeah, I mean, if any more facts like average rainfall or whatever, if I can remember them, um, then I will happily bring that up.
Please do.
So, but yeah, I how are you?
I'm pretty good. We've been very busy behind the scenes and we've just started performing again, so that's really good. Um, and Brisbane was one of the places where I guess I mean, the global pandemic has been horrible for for everybody. But we were one of those ones that locked down really quickly and were able to sort of resume somewhat of a normal life now, um, you know, now that we're in November. So I don't think I can complain. It's pretty good.
That's great. Yeah, but there are a few music acts that I'm friendly with who I keep in touch with, throughout the world. And there, aside from yourself, and then there's a band Fumarole, who's also in
Yeah.
Australia, and another group called Harshmellow, which
Yes.
so when in speaking to them and sort of following how they're doing it, I'm glad everyone is able to play again, and things aren't as crazy.
Yeah.
But
How about you? How are things where you're at?
well, I live in Virginia, um, but I went to go live with my parents in South Carolina, so I'm still here just because there didn't seem to be a reason to go home yet.
Hmm.
So I'm sort of reliving my old high school days of living with my folks. Um,
Yeah.
but it's it's certainly I enjoy the human interaction I get every day, and I try to be value added. So like I'll get the paper in the morning and I'll make coffee and I'll
Oh,
lift the heavy items and whatnot. But
yes. That's so sweet. That's so
yeah, yeah,
sweet.
that's how I'll choose to think of it too. But no, it's great. It's sort of nice, to where we are. Thankfully, we're sort of in a remote place, so
Hmm.
it's not as crazy as like if we lived in New York City or something
Yeah.
like that. But
Yeah.
and I'm a writer and a former teacher, so for me, being alone or spending a lot of time indoors is fine because I tend to make the most of it.
Yeah, that's really good. I feel the same way. When we went into lockdown, I was like, okay, music making mode engaged. I have no excuses.
Yeah, I think most of the people I've spoken to who are artists of some sort have really taken advantage of either writing new music or
Mm,
working on new books or whatever have you.
yeah.
But that's great. And I played one of your songs today on the podcast. Um,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, I think it was called "Hey You."
Oh, yeah. That's our most popular song.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, I played the most recent one, or at least I knew that was the one that was going to probably be promoted most. And I think
Hmm.
I had already mentioned that at some point, so I wanted to try something different. Um, I
Thank
think
you.
when because I made a Spotify playlist for everybody that was going to be on Heather's Happy Hour with
Yeah.
Heather and Guest. So I wanted to differentiate the songs, but
Thank you.
today I mentioned that I thought there, on Bandcamp, it's described as sort of for fans of Butterfly Effect and Evanescence, but in some of your vocal delivery, it was reminiscent of Alanis Morissette. I don't.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. I'm so
Yeah.
glad.
Okay.
I
Good.
love Aladdin.
I'm glad you took that. It was meant as a compliment, so I'm glad you took it as a compliment. But especially in "Hey You," towards the second part of the song, I really felt like that's the influence I felt I heard. So
That makes me so happy.
good.
I love Alanis Morissette. I love Um, like a lot of female pop artists, I wouldn't put Alanis in pop, but like alternative artists of that era, like Tori Amos and Fiona Apple, Alanis Morissette. So that warms my heart that you said that. So that's really good.
Good. Yeah, I mean there was absolutely the sense that that's whether or not that was a direct influence on you, but I certainly that was what I thought. At one point I said this sounds like, when I was in high school and Jagged Little Pill was doing really
Yes.
well.
Oh, that's so cool. Thank you. Because that's a phenomenal album.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I mean she's incredibly talented. So
Hmm.
that was the sense I got was that there was a you know your vocals are very reminiscent of her delivery, just in terms of the kind of I mean, dare I say the word sultry, but there's there's something there that sort of cuts through some of the tape that you might, I guess, in some many of the other pop vocalists, but this was a little bit sort of what's the word, sometimes I can't think of the right word, but
Neither can I, and apparently I write words, so
right, yeah.
it's totally cool.
Well, I one thing I'm fond of saying on the podcast is that the only reason these labels exist is to give people something to argue about. So,
Yes.
I'm happy to just let, the listeners decide how they want to classify it. What I will say is it's great alternative music with a heavier sort of flair to it. And as I've said many times already, vocals reminiscent of Alanis, but others as well. And you do have a unique sound. So
Thank you.
um, so yeah, I mean, and accessible too. So certainly you could listen, you could play your music to really anyone. Um, but so I know you guys, thankfully, things are opening up a little bit more in Australia. Do you have plans
Hmm.
and you have plans, I know, to play some shows because I've been putting that on social media as well, which will be
Thank
great.
you.
Um, are you working on any new material lately, or?
Oh, yes. We have been working nonstop. So basically, as soon as the pandemic hit, our first goal was like, obviously, everybody was freaking out. All of us in the band do struggle with a lot of anxiety. So it's kind of like a cool common place where, like, yes, I know you're freaking out. It's okay. I get it, kind of thing. So we pretty much put all our energy into, upskilling ourselves and took a whole lot of courses in music marketing, PR, like restarted music theory learning again, bought myself another keyboard because why not, more toys. Um, and we focus on finishing Find My Way Out and getting that out. And since then, we've been working on, building our own studio so we don't have to like, we're kind of trying to make it like as sustainable as we can because half of the band lost their jobs during coronavirus. So we've been writing music, but also at the same time creating framework to make the band as sustainable as we can. So we all do everything ourselves, including, printing our merch. So that's our bass player who has a printing company. So he hand makes everything. So anybody that buys merch, it's literally made by like a band member.
Wow.
Yeah, so guitarist Sarah's a photographer, videographer, graphic designer, apart from being a radical human being. So she does that aspect of things. I'm pretty good with social media, so that's my like forte. Obviously, again, a bit of cliche being a lead singer. I love this kind of stuff. So I manage all their social media. My background is in I've got a degree in business information systems, so I am really nerdy and really happy about creating good framework for everybody to have access to and make the most out of what we can afford. So everybody has access to all the music at all points, just nerdy stuff.
Gotcha.
Just
Yeah,
I
well, I
love
mean,
spreadsheets and that's my jam.
yeah. Well, and I mean, these days you sort of have to dabble in so many other things. I remember when I was in grad school, and I thought, okay, well, the only thing I'll ever have to do is write, and someone else will take care of everything else. And then, slowly you begin to learn, like, no, 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 you also have to market and promote and do whatever. But that's great that you guys are all sort of able to contribute to different elements of the band. Um, with social media and with photography and with design. I mean, that's one. I mean, you really it's handmade by by a member of the band. So
Absolutely. Everything is literally and figuratively. And I'd be remiss if I don't mention our amazing management who have we signed with them I think it was June earlier this year. And honestly, they've just adding them on to give us the guidance so I can just focus on creating music has been amazing because we can just ask them all the questions. They have all of this experience and they manage some amazing acts. They're called Hard Drive Agency. And it's great because it's just nice not having that pressure and the guilt of, am I making the right decisions here? So I can just go to them. And without them, I would say we're still a baby band, but how far we've come and how we've cut through some of the currently saturated music market is a big thanks to them because you can make the best music, but if you don't have the right direction on how to get it out to people, it kind of sucks. So it was really great to have them and they do all our bookings. So it's nice to just be, as much as I love admin, it's so sad. I love it. But it was really good to hand all of that over and decision making and consultation over to them so they can basically guide us. And they're super open-minded, like super collaborative. All of majority of them are musicians themselves, so they really get it, which was my um, biggest, I guess, concern, but in this case was, positive, where because they're musicians, they really understand that it can't always be like, get music out, like, you know what I mean? And they've been there themselves. They're just phenomenal to add on to the team. And of course, our producer, Rob, who is LA based, and the second component of our production team is Ian from Capitol Records in America. So yeah, it's not like it's self-made, but it's only succeeding, I would say, because of these other people out there that are in our corner and believe in us.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to be able to kind of, steer the ship a little bit more and figure out where
Hmm.
you're headed. But it's also great when you can have a collaborative experience with people, on whatever ship metaphor is going to work to move that forward. But since you were giving out some thanks, I also want to thank Heather, who's put this entire group together, who wrote "That's Amazing." I'm guessing she wrote that on something
Yeah,
that you had said earlier, probably. Um,
thank you.
but uh, but yeah, thank you, Heather, and the rest of you out there. It's really great to I mean, to discover. I always like discovering bands I've never heard before. That's one of the wonderful things about the podcast, and the fact that now there's really no limits. So every
Hmm.
day I'm discovering bands from Australia or Finland or Spain or all over, or even in my backyard. And I spoke to a band from North Carolina today called Bongfoot. So
Oh, I love the name.
yeah,
That's
yeah, no, it's
awesome.
great. It's great. Yeah, they're a good sort of stoner metal, kind of High on Fire meets a like a sludgy, like a Crowbar type
Oh,
band.
cool.
So but yeah, no, anyway, but getting it. And so did you I commented a bit when I was promoting this on the name for Torizon being
Yes.
a combination of Torsion and Event Horizon, and then I went off on a tangent about the movie Event Horizon.
Yeah,
But
I love that.
okay, yeah, no, I didn't. There are times where I don't know, because I have a pretty intimate knowledge of pop culture. I'm not sure
Hmm.
if people are going to understand. Sometimes I go really off the deep end, but I'm glad that you are familiar enough with the movie. But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, if you don't,
loved it. As soon as you said that, I was like, damn, that's cool.
yeah, well,
To be in
I
the
mean,
same sentence as that movie? Come on.
that's the first thing I thought of when I read Event Horizon. I said, oh wait, like the movie, not like the scientific process of black holes, but
Yeah,
no, it's really cool. The name, the music. Again, I sometimes will have my mother on as a guest. Um, I feel like I keep throwing her under the bus, but
yeah,
it's always great when I can find music that we can both listen to, and I know that she'll actually enjoy listening to it. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, I mean, the music is I mean, it's heavy, but it's accessible, and there,
yeah.
obviously with with melodic, with the melodic music and your vocals, it's it's something sort of for everyone.
Certainly. And I'm really proud of that because I used to be in bands where I used to scream and it was fun and like I don't know, it was good because it was just my teenage fantasy to be able to just scream in a band because I one of the first bands I listened to, heavier bands was Arch Enemy and I've always wanted to do that. But I'm kind of glad now that, sort of in my late 20s, now early 30s, I've sort of moved away from that personally because this feels thank you, Carol.
Oh,
This
that's
feels
my
more
that's my mom.
authentic.
There you go.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you for listening to looking forward to listening to our music. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've just sort of moved away because it's just not me anymore. I do enjoy listening to that stuff. Definitely, I love bands that do that stuff, but it's just kind of not me. So I was just as I was sort of, like in that critical period in your late 20s where you're kind of like, oh my God, who am I? You go through all of that, is you kind of realize what kind of means to you. And for me, it was really important to go back to my roots of why I got into music. And that was because at a time of I had a really terrible childhood, so at a time where I didn't have any safety or escape. I used to listen to music to get some relatability. So I wanted to create that with this project, which is why Torizon has a dual meaning, where it's obviously the black hole, but at the same time it showcases like life is horrible at times, but there's always a horizon at the end. So
Sure.
that's and it's all about being authentic. Like the songs that have come out so far are definitely, yeah, empowering, and it's awesome. The new song that we're currently preparing the campaign for, it's already tracked and mastered. It's called Burning Away, and it's coming out in January. And that one is a bit more angry and it's much heavier, but keeping the same authenticity of like how I feel. If I feel powerless, I will say that rather than having to constantly be this empowering narrative. And then the other songs I've written, one of them is actually about, these are the newer stuff is for our EP that we are in the process of finishing after the single is out. It's written about a PTSD flashback that I had, and it was so intense I literally lost my footing and fell over, and just it was so intense that it kind of made me go, oh, well, I think there's some beauty in this, and we should be able to write about this. So that song is not about like, oh yeah, definitely get better and like, yeah, you can do and you can achieve all these things, which you can, but sometimes it's okay to just be like, yeah, today it's just not happening.
Yeah, well,
So I wanted to highlight that.
yeah, I mean, I'm really familiar with that, sensibility, and also being able to find sort of the silver linings in situations. I think, um, or if it's a bad situation, sometimes you just have to let it ride out, and not try to
Yeah.
make the best of it, but just sort of. One thing I'm fond of saying these days is that we're all in different boats, but we're in the same storm. In some
100%, how true.
Um, but yeah, the other thing that you were saying that I really agreed with, or at least that I started to sort of figure out was, you know, when I was in school and I was working toward, trying to publish something for the first time, it was almost like I had blinders on, to the
Mm-hmm.
point where I was like, I just have to write this and get it out there, that I think I missed out on enjoying some of the process. But it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like now you've kind of shifted the perspective a little bit to appreciate everything now. It's sort of like, let's focus on making good music and having a good time and experiencing, the collaborative process with all these great people. And then when the music happens, great. But I think it's really easy to lose sight of that. Um, especially as you're getting older and you're sort of being influenced by different things, and all of a sudden something is really popular that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really have as much substance, maybe, or longevity, and who knows. But it's great. I mean, it's great to hear that you've sort of continued to learn from all these experiences and sort of develop the sound that attracted you to the music. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
thank
mean, it
you.
is it is also a universal thing. So many people that that I've met that are so different from each other, but we can all sort of come together, and celebrate this one sort of aspect of life in the music. Um,
Yeah,
so it's great. It's great to be able to contribute to that in some way.
100%. It makes me really happy. Like I did get a message when Find My Way Out was released about I'll keep this person anonymous, but they did say that, hey, hearing the song kind of made me realize things aren't okay and I need to make some changes. And I was like, man, if that's like, I've got goosebumps right now. if if I could like shift somebody's perspective, just one person, that totally makes the song worth it. And it's also when I'm writing music, I'm still kind of navigating through my own feelings. A lot of times, particularly with the EP, and I would say that with Falling more so on the EP, I was writing, like, yeah, I'm not going to fall for this and blah, blah, blah. But in the meantime, what the reality was, I was falling for all those patterns and those kind of narcissistic tendencies. And like, it doesn't work with somebody with PTSD because it's just not going to happen. Um, so I was writing that song to sort of empower myself in a way, where I was just kind of future tripping, like, okay, well, in 5 years' time, I would like to be able to get out of this musical relationship that I'm in, and it's not very healthy for me. But at the time, I didn't have the strength. But writing the lyrics and writing the melodies and helping construct that song kind of just gave me that strength, if that makes sense. It's like a typical lead singer, right?
No,
You
well,
feel
I mean,
vocally. This is what
it
we do.
it makes sense. I think everyone who's creating something, I think it's always coming from a very personal place. And one thing I learned from being a teacher, and dealing more, with students who are in middle or high school, is that
Hmm.
frequently we feel really alone, and we're concerned that the experiences or the emotions we're having are unique to us and that they're
Yeah,
probably weird. So when you do discover something that someone's written, or a film that someone's made, or a song that someone's written that perfectly encapsulates what you've been feeling, it's really a freeing thing. And it's great. I mean, it's
100%.
great. A lot of the subject matter is probably really terrifying to these people who discover all of a sudden, well, wait, this person just sang exactly what I'm going through. um,
Yeah,
and they get it. And then it's great to know that you're not alone. That
absolutely.
one of my favorite authors is this guy David Foster Wallace, and he said good writing makes people feel less alone. And
Okay.
I always felt like that should be something, like that should be the mantra to work toward. um,
100%. That is something that kind of like retrospectively, when I was 16-year-old me is like doing cartwheels because I'm living out that dream that what I had when I was 16 years old. So, but I do remember when I was about, I think 15 or 16, there was prolonged childhood trauma, psychological, sexual, physical, everything you can imagine. Um, and it is, I remember at about 15 I was just kind of like because like even if you look at it from a oh my god, developmental, I can't say that word right now, it's
it's
too
all good.
early,
It's all good.
side of things, when you grow up with that kind of nervous system dysregulation where you're just constantly in fight or flight, pretty much even when I was nonverbal, I could see dangerous things, and I do have clear memories of that. um, you don't you kind of not set up to see things objectively, especially in your childhood and like your early teenage years when you throw all those extra hormones on this wonderful recipe. But I do remember when I was 15 that I was like, okay, this something in this picture is not right, and I think it's me. And it's that same isolating feeling. And then I heard Bring Me to Life come on MTV in 2003, and I was like, whoa, this lady's thinking about stuff I'm feeling. Damn, oh, you can do that? And that just made me go, okay, I like music. My dad's a musician. So I was like, okay, well, he likes that kind of stuff. Oh, thanks, Heather. I feel it, girl. It's cool. It's hard, but it is life, and we just navigate as best as we can. Um, so I decided, I was like, all right, that song kind of shifted that perspective where I was like, cool, I can make something tangible out of what I'm feeling. And I bought myself a guitar. I taught myself like 4 or 5 chords, and I was able to, I don't play guitar anymore. I just played it back then. And I was able to translate all those feelings firstly into poetry and then into songs. And that just liberated me and gave me the strength to sort of leave my childhood home and say goodbye to that life, and then kind of pave my own way. And I've been on my own ever since. But it's progressively always gotten better. And there was just this intrinsic sense of resilience I always had, like, even as a little child with things going on that I'm like, I don't understand, but this is not cool. Like, I get it. That sort of has that little fire, spark, whatever you want to call it, has never really gone away. And I noticed that as soon as I sort of delved into music or trying to express myself in a creative way, it just got stronger and stronger. So that's been kind of my little um, rope to hold on to find my way when I'm like, what is going on in the world? Like, I don't understand. But I always return back to music. And Harry Potter was one of the books, and Goosebumps is so funny. But my teenage years, that helped me navigate, like, escape all the chaos around me. It was definitely music and books really helped me get through a lot of the stuff and also preserve myself in a
Sure.
way. And as I kind of got older, I was like, I'm doing music. That's it. I'll just get a job that'll pay for my bills and enough to get me, enough money to get by and make music, and that's all I care about. So that's kind of what I've been doing.
Yeah. Well, it's
And
good. I
I'm
mean,
very lucky that the guys in my band, like everybody, has got the same mentality of music comes first, and it's about a shared experience, and it's about a shared goal. There's an immense amount of kindness and support within the little group, including our management, including our production team. So that was like a key thing that I was like, I don't care if you're the best musician in the world, but if you are going to be toying with people's feelings, I don't want that. So together, what we make is special, and I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, there was a one of the last time I was teaching full time, I we had clubs every Friday, and I created a music appreciation club. Um,
Yeah.
and I showed them a documentary called Hired Gun, which was just interviews with all these session musicians, basically. And one
Hmm.
of them, well, many of them, I think, talked about the same thing. But Alice Cooper was saying, that
Yeah.
when he looks for people to be in his band, the first, he said there are millions of people out there that can shred on the guitar, but how many people do you want to spend 18 hours a day with? Who are going to be
Yep.
cool people and supportive. And I kept trying to get all these kids listen to that. Obviously play your instruments and practice and do what you have to do. But remember, the most important thing is just that you won't take somebody's peanut butter and jelly sandwich from the fridge when you're on the bus. Um,
Yes.
whether or not they that resonated with them. That's tough when you're 12 to understand you know those sorts of things. But yeah, no, it's great. It sounds like you've really been able to build a wonderful group, not just performers, but people behind the scenes as well, and really draw a lot of
100%.
strength from that and make great music. um
Thank
which
you. I
which
mean, it does come down to music, but it is like it's weird because it's making the music is only 50%, like we talked about, and the rest of it you still have to get along and be able to compromise and negotiate in that other realm of the 50%, with respect and kindness. And that's what I found in this crew. Obviously, it takes time to find the right people. We've had line of changes until we found the right people, and nothing wrong with the other people that were there. It's just that, things sometimes don't work out. And I'm glad that they played the part that they did to sort of get me and this current crew to where we're at. So there's no hard feelings anyway. But man, yeah, you do have to be able to agree and be kind and be respectful. And I think finally, like, we've got that in the people that are around here. um it's spending 18 hours. We're always on the chat or on the phone. We didn't see each other for like a week, and everybody's like, I miss you. I'm like, I miss you guys too. It was just so nice to feel that kind of strong sense of not just community, but like, I don't know, they're like my bros and sis,
Yeah, well,
like that's just how it
they're
is.
your chosen family in a
Yeah,
way.
exactly. Yeah,
So that they are a very important part of your life in so many ways. Collaborating with music, but also as close friends and being supportive of your ambition, and finding ways to compromise on songs or having ideas and being able to make room for other people's ideas. um, it seems like you've, and yeah, it takes time. um, I remember when Metallica recently had Rob Trujillo, and they talked
yeah,
about getting when they kicked, or when Jason Newsted left, and then I remember they were saying that maybe Jason had to leave in order for the band to find its the chemistry, because
yeah.
now that Rob's been there for like 20 years, practically, or a little bit less. But still, it's one of those things where sometimes, even though the best of intentions are there, the chemistry just needs to be tweaked. But it's
100%.
it's great to hear that you've found a pretty good formula and you're making the type of music that you want to make, and
Yes.
you've got an EP that you're working on, which is awesome.
Yeah,
And
it is going to be out. I think at this point we start tracking in March. And we aim to have it out by October, but there will be a single called Burning Away that'll be out in January.
okay,
And we'll start rolling that out at the end of this year. So yeah, we'll tell people all about it.
cool. Yeah. So for those of you out there, keep an eye out for new music coming from Torizon in the new year. a way
Yeah.
to ring in the new year. Even though right now I know it's 8:37 a.m., so maybe not so many people in Brisbane are watching. But the great thing about this is it's being recorded, and it'll be in the archives. So that's good. I mean, this is where I would throw out another fact about Australia, if I
Yes.
could remember any of them. I just
Oh,
I led with my best one that Canberra was the capital,
yes.
but and I mean Queensland I remembered was the name of a territory, and and I know I used to know a rugby team. Yeah, I mean it's all
Oh, you know what? I don't follow rugby, so that's probably
okay.
good.
There, yeah, there we go. It's all good. I'll
What
get.
sports? I'm a creative person. I wish I could sport. I got kicked off the basketball team, so there's
Okay,
that.
gotcha. I used to wrestle in high school,
Oh,
but
cool.
yeah, that's a really long time ago. But and occasionally I play the guitar a little bit, but it's more
Awesome.
just to just to have fun and decompress. But
Yeah, that's
it's
what
great.
it's all about, man.
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. Thankfully I sort of figured out with writing, which is really my main passion, that that it's sort of more important to enjoy the process of it and less important. I mean, eventually the work will get produced, and you'll figure
Yeah,
out what to do with it. But for a while, it took a while to kind of recalibrate and figure that out. But
yeah.
yeah, no,
I'm
it's
very inspired by writers. Like writing, I think to me is a very dark art, and it's especially like I do really like comedy writers as well. Like that's my kind of genre, I would say. And it's so clever. It is so clever. I can never think of anything that I would be able to come up with like that. And it's I would imagine it's something that is again like making an album. Is the only thing I can compare it with is it's a long time coming. But when it's out, you're like, oh my God.
yeah. I mean, the one thing I think I've learned is that comedy tends to be something that you can do at any age.
Hmm.
It's usually inherent, like you're born understanding timing or certain things like that. I mean, I think you can certainly develop it as you go. Like you can learn how to structure a story or a joke, um, but you can't really learn how to be funny.
Yeah.
Whereas with drama, that's something that comes mostly from age and experience.
Hmm.
So if you're going to watch a play written by a 22-year-old and the play's about loss, it's probably not going to resonate as much as the play about loss written by the 79-year-old. um,
100%. Yeah, makes sense.
Whereas anyone, even a 12-year-old can write really funny, comedically timed sorts of things. So for me particularly, it just has to the only thing I have to watch out for is like how many people are going to understand the reference I'm making to something really
Yeah.
obscure. But these days I sort of have a better idea of although it was funny because I did make a SpongeBob joke when I was teaching, and that was the only thing my students ever got. And
Oh
it
wow.
was really nice for me to finally connect with them on a pop culture level, because
Yeah.
the rest of it, like Pokemon and all that stuff, I had no idea about. So
Okay, no, fair enough. Do you
although
ever
they did.
throw any obscure references in there just for the heck of it for you? Just for you?
Well, you mentioned Harry. One of the students complimented my glasses, saying that they were reminiscent of Harry Potter's.
Yep.
So and I said, "Does that mean I need to get rid of them?" And she looked at me like I was crazy and said, "No, that was a
Yeah.
compliment." And I was like, "Oh, well, okay, great."
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, there was another. Oh, you had talked about hearing. I forgot what the name of the song was that you said you heard
Bring me to life, maybe?
when you were 16. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
Okay, because I think growing up in my early teens, I was sort of a classic rock kid. I think a lot of kids from my circles, my age group, my generation would sort of
Hmm.
find classic rock, like Led Zeppelin or Cream or something, and then
Yeah.
when I was in 7th grade, Nevermind came out by Nirvana.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And I felt like, wait a second, this guy I've never met is writing these songs just for me, because how could anyone else be going through, when just the, I mean, not that they were so complicated in terms of the chords or the lyrics, but it was just he was able to capture something that was so
yeah,
familiar. And I just remember I bought that on CD and played it probably every day. Um,
yeah,
but
yeah,
but yeah, no, that was like the sort of the first time where I was like, wait a second, there's this whole other branch of music out there that maybe not everybody listens to. It was sort
yeah,
of like with classic rock or with rap or with something that was really popular. It was like, well, everyone I know likes to listen to this, but only a handful of people are listening to this other stuff. But that
yeah,
seems to be what I'm all about. And then
yes,
you discover that, and then you
yeah,
realize, oh, there's so much more going on than I realized. And
yeah, and
and it's
like so many other people also like it. Oh, cool! I'm a
right.
part of this little crew, and I love that.
And then you find your circle, and then that's really, like, as you'd said, I mean, there's so many things that are empowering, but that's really like a wonderful, when you discover again that you're not alone. That can
Hmm.
be really freeing. um,
Yeah.
so it's great, and it's wonderful to know that your music is going to provide that for other people. um, you know
Hope so. That's my aim. I'm just gonna keep being me and keep writing, and hopefully it connects to somebody, and that's nice. I would
yeah.
that would make it all worth it.
Well, I mean, I think you're writing the music for yourself, which is how it should be, and then other people out there, because the subject matter is universal, so other
Yeah.
people are going to connect with it, just because that's the nature of the beast. But
I hope I used to be very metaphorical, because my inspirations were like very metaphorical vocalists. And then when I met Rob and he's like, this is cool. Metaphorical writing is cool, but maybe we can try bit direct so people can really connect to it. And that changed everything for me. So that's how like the EP was rewritten, like lyrically and not so much more melodically, but lyrically particularly. And that's when I was like, oh, this makes sense now. Okay, people can relate to it. So I've kind of like kept that, and it's because it's easy. I mean, like as a writer, you get it. Like metaphorical writing is cool, but to me, I find like it's sometimes much harder to be more direct because you're working with rhythm, you're working with rhyme. Is it gonna fit in? Is this gonna, this passage of music can only contain this much, and you got to tell like this whole story in 3 minutes
yeah,
over loud and
have you ever
wow.
have you has there ever been subject matter where you're sort of worried, like, is this too personal to talk about, or
Not
has
really. Nah,
that
I just put it out there.
that's
I
not
just am
been?
like, you know what? That's a part of who I am, and because of this, I'm a resilient human being. So there you
Yeah.
go.
Well, I only bring that up because I recently wrote, I've written a bunch of stuff about my own experiences that's like nonfiction.
Hmm.
And one of them I just sent to a friend to read over because he's in the story, and I didn't want him to feel uncomfortable with it, because I used to have really bad obsessive compulsive disorder, where I was
Hmm.
worried that I would get AIDS from touching
Yeah,
doorknobs and stuff. So
yeah.
he used to talk me off the ledge by asking, are you still worried about doorknob AIDS? And then he would
Hmm.
he would like mime, like rubbing himself on the doorknob, and then we would quote Joy Division lyrics together. And that, like, these were all ways that he would help me kind of decompress. So for me, it was never a problem to sort of open up about this, because I felt maybe there's not someone out there who's dealing with the same thing, but
Yes.
they're probably dealing with something that's, possibly embarrassing, or possibly they makes them feel lonely. Um,
Yeah.
but if I sort of put that out there, so I was curious, because a lot of the subject matter you're talking about could be very personal, or something like that. I just didn't know if you felt, if that was something that it was inhibited at the beginning, or
No, not at all. No,
okay.
because reason why I like to and it's not even the reason why I like to put those things out there. It's more like that's what kind of shapes. It's whatever I'm going through, or it is something that I find like an event might happen. I'm like, oh, there's a song in it. As shitty as it is, there's a song in it. So I would like to hold on to that kind of feeling,
Yeah,
but obviously in a healthy manner. You can't, can't always be holding on to a lot of, um, I would say not negative, but like overly charged emotions that take a lot out of you. So I would always like to, I'm good at compartmentalizing those. So I'd be like, okay, well, this is something I can access a little bit later. And when us, Sarah might send me a riff and I'm like, oh, that invokes that same feeling of powerlessness. What's in my tool chest of powerlessness that I felt in the past before? So I'll grab this, okay, this relationship, or maybe it was my parents, or maybe it's this. So that's kind of a way I've been able to preserve, like being able to get my treated sticker for complex PTSD, but at the same time keep the authenticity there and keeping those experiences as real as I can, but also keeping in mind that it has to be in a sustainable and healthy way. Because
right.
my biggest fear was when I was 16, I was misdiagnosed and I was put on the wrong medication, and it just completely took all of my creativity away. And I was like, never again. But then, about 5 years ago, I wasn't coping with things really well. So I was asked to go on medication. I was like, no, it's gonna suck at all my creativity. But my GP, my doctor's like really lovely, and she sort of like she said my creativity would be a marker to check if this medication's working. And that just took all the stress off me. But what I found was when you're not constantly battling your own thoughts in your head all the time, there's a whole lot of energy that comes that is like now out at your disposal, and you can use it whenever you want. But getting the right help, having the medication, seeing a trauma therapist allowed me to be able to compartmentalize these experiences in a healthy way where I can access them when I need to, but also like live like a normal human being. You know what I mean?
I
Because
do.
it can be tough at times for anyone. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's when I've dealing with recovering myself, I tend to quote from the great Paula Abdul. What's the name of the song? Opposites attract. I take 2 steps forward. I take 2 steps back. We come together because opposites attract. But I sort of,
yeah,
I felt like the 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. That seems to be, like weekdays, pretty much.
yeah,
And it's hard. It's hard sometimes when you're taking 2 steps back to feel like you've lost all the ground you've made up, um,
yes,
until you realize that you're essentially going in spirals.
yeah,
So, um, but it's, I mean, again, it's wonderful to hear that you're able to use all of these experiences in a positive way, and you've sort of found, um, a great sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, it'll come to me. But you've found like-minded people who you can work with to sort of bring really great songs out of you that you can develop with them. Great management, um, and the future is really bright.
yes,
In
and a
the immortal
shared
words,
goal. We have a shared goal. That is
y-
the key in
yep.
everything.
In the immortal words of Timbuk 3, the future's so bright, I gotta wear shades.
Yeah, I don't know how much shades today, but you know what I mean.
No, no, yeah,
That's
yeah,
true.
of course. It was, of course.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's reassuring. I don't know, like you're a creative person, you probably get this as well, where you just kind of, I don't know, sometimes you're like, am I just thinking this? Is this like, I don't understand. Is this even real? Like, are these people like have their best interest in me kind of thing? Not particularly with the band, but just in life. And it's just reassuring when I say these things out loud, like, oh yeah, it's true. It's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's really nice to speak to somebody else who is a creative person that also has a lot of similar concerns, or not concerns, but just the way,
Patterns.
yeah, the process in which you're doing all
Patterns.
this. It just
Yeah.
seems very familiar. Um, with most of what you've talked about today, I can relate to it. So
Oh, good.
yeah, absolutely. So
Thank you.
it's always nice and reassuring to kind of to speak to somebody, a like-minded person who's also creative and is obviously doing really well in terms of being able to balance all this stuff and be really productive and make great
Yeah.
music. So
Yay! I mean,
yeah,
listening to a lot of comedians has really helped me because when I listen and actors, when I listen to them talk, I'm like, yeah, we're the same people. It's fine. Like everybody's got the same dialogue in their head, and it doesn't matter which creative path it is. So it's been really reassuring to hear that and be like, oh yeah, I'm not that much of an overthinker. It's like this is just the type of this is the nature of the beast because it comes from such a like a deep, vulnerable, like authentic, but also insecure mold of things. You know what I mean? So of
yeah,
course it's gonna be
absolutely.
like entice those patterns and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's important to also like balance it with levity. You know, that's I'm a huge comedy fan, but at the same time, like taking care of yourself because like I make sure I hit the gym, I make sure I meditate every day, I make sure I do my stretches and the little self-care things. It could be anything that people like. That's what brings the and like knowing your limit also. Like I personally, my guitarist Sarah and I are both kind of very similar in that regard, where it's like one creative thing a day. Don't overload yourself with like too many. So as to realize your own kind of measure of like okay, I've overdone it today. And Jeremy and Aaron, our bass and drum players, are phenomenal. They are like the ones that kind of like, yeah, you need to take a break, you're overdoing it right now. So it's a really good balance, and if you don't have that within yourself or with people around you, you can't function because you'll just be burning your candle at both ends, and that's not good for anyone.
No, no, not at all. I mean, I think what's been nice is I think you've continued to find the right people who are going to be helpful and sort of push you in the direction you need to go. And
Yeah.
you've also within yourself you've kind of found a way to deal with it. I mean, being a creative person and trying to create things can be very challenging on a daily basis. And although
Mm-hmm.
the voices in your head telling you whatever they're telling you, or trying
Peace
to
up. I'm like, no,
that could
shush, we
that
don't hear that.
or trying to invoke the muse, or doing whatever it takes to try and get to the next step can sometimes trip you up along the way. But it sounds like you've sort of got a great crew together and a really good game plan. So
Yeah. No, it's very it's surreal. It's like to me, I'm just like, is it real? Whoa! But it is. It's really lovely, and I'm nothing but super excited about the future. Can't wait to release the new single. I would really encourage anybody who's watching this to please jump on our Spotify. I shall pop a link in the comments. Chuck our songs in your playlist. Have a listen, and on our Instagram, I tend to feature a lot of behind the scenes that are Instagram exclusive only. So that's a cool place where you really want to see what we're really like, the anxious nerds who are just constantly trying to be cool, in front of the camera, but you get to see what it's like behind it. And yeah, and Facebook is another place where we like to do a lot of polling, engagement posts where you get to, talk to the members and also what we think about certain albums. And yeah, like, so we're pretty active on there. So it'd be good if you like our music, jump on there, say hello.
cool. Yeah. So I think it's Torizon Band on Instagram.
Correct.
So
And
so
Torizon Music on Facebook. I don't know why I did two different ones, but that's
it's all
just where
good.
it's
So for those of you out there who are interested in getting in touch or interacting with the band, finding out what happens behind the scenes, getting information about the old or new music, definitely worth checking them out. I heartily endorse the band on both Happy Hour with Heather and Guest and A Fistful of Faceful. So if I had other platforms, I would endorse the band on them as well. But
you.
maybe one day, who knows? But it's been so great speaking with you, because I
Likewise.
think I really appreciate it. I hope you have a good Sunday because I know it's
Thank you.
Sunday in Brisbane, and I
Yes.
and I know it's pronounced Brisbane, not Brisbane. So
You got that right, dude. Absolutely. But it's
yeah.
always fun hearing different pronunciations. I'm not it's always like
Uh,
I find it endearing, if
oh
anything. So
yeah. Well, the last thing I'll leave you with before I go is when I was teaching in Hong Kong, one of my office mates was from Great Britain, and he was from
yeah.
Nottingham, and he always appreciated the fact that Americans would usually say Nottingham. So that was
Yeah.
And that was always so. Yes, so Brisbane, and Miss Bryden. If you're out there watching, she was my third grade teacher from Australia. I hope that I've made you proud. Um, and it was so lovely to speak with you. And
Likewise. Thank
I'm
you for
excited
having me.
to keep promoting Torizon. So for those of you out there, definitely pick up the new songs and keep an eye out for future songs. And have a good rest of the weekend.
Thank you so much again. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Okay, bye.